Hello there, my name is Ryan and today I will be talking to you about the space probe Europa Clipper. Europa Clipper is a space probe developed by NASA to study Europa, a Galilean moon of Jupiter. It was launched on October 14, 2024. The spacecraft will use gravity assists from Mars on March 1, 2025, and Earth on December 3, 2026, before arriving at Europa in April 2030. The spacecraft will then perform a series of flybys of Europa while in orbit around Jupiter. Europa Clipper is designed to follow up on evidence for a subsurface ocean underneath Europa's ice crust, found using the Galileo spacecraft which orbited Jupiter from 1995 to 2003. Plans to send a spacecraft to Europa were initially conceived with projects such as Europa Orbiter and Jupiter Icy Moons Orbiter, in which a spacecraft would be inserted into orbit around Europa. However, due to the adverse effects of radiation from the magnetosphere of Jupiter in Europa orbit, it was decided that it would be safer to insert a spacecraft into an elliptical orbit around Jupiter and make 49 close flybys of the Moon instead. The Europa Clipper spacecraft is larger than any other used for previous NASA planetary missions. The spacecraft will analyze the presence of an induced magnetic field around Europa, and attempt to detect plumes of water ejecta from a subsurface ocean, in addition to various other tests. The mission's name is a reference to the lightweight and fast clipper ships of the 19th century that routinely plied trade routes, since the spacecraft will pass by Europa at a rapid cadence, as frequently as every 2 weeks. The mission patch, which features a depiction of a sail ship, references the moniker. Europa Clipper complements the ESA's Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, launched in 2023, which will attempt to fly past Europa twice and Callisto multiple times before moving into orbit around Ganymede. In 1997, a Europa Orbiter mission was proposed by a team for NASA's Discovery program but was not selected. NASA's JPL announced 1 month after the selection of Discovery proposals that a NASA Europa Orbiter mission would be conducted. JPL then invited the Discovery proposal team to be the mission review committee. At the same time as the proposal of the Discovery-class Europa Orbiter, the robotic Galileo spacecraft was already orbiting Jupiter. From December 8, 1995, to December 7, 1997, Galileo conducted the primary mission after entering the orbit of Jupiter. On that final date, the Galileo orbiter commenced an extended mission known as the Galileo Europa mission, which ran until December 31, 1999. This was a low-cost mission extension with a budget of only $30 million. The smaller team of about 40 to 50 people, compared with the primary mission's 200-person team from 1995 to 1997, did not have the resources to deal with problems, but when they arose, it was able to temporarily recall former team members, called Tiger Teams, for intensive efforts to solve them. The spacecraft made several flybys of Europa, 8, Callisto, 4, and Io, 2. On each flyby of the 3 moons it encountered, the spacecraft collected only 2 days' worth of data instead of the 7 it had collected during the primary mission. During GEM's 8 flybys of Europa, it ranged from 196 to 3,582 kilometers, 122 to 2,226 miles, in 2 years. Europa has been identified as one of the locations in the solar system that could possibly harbor microbial extraterrestrial life. Immediately following the Galileo spacecraft's discoveries and the Independent Discovery Program proposal for a Europa orbiter, JPL conducted preliminary mission studies that envisioned a capable spacecraft such as the Jupiter Icy Moons Orbiter, a $16 billion mission concept, the Jupiter Europa Orbiter, a $4.3 billion concept, another orbiter, $2 billion concept, and a multi-flyby spacecraft, Europa Clipper. A mission to Europa was recommended by the National Research Council in 2013. The approximate cost estimate rose from $2 billion in 2013 to $4.25 billion in 2020. The mission is a joint project between the Johns Hopkins University's Applied Physics Laboratory, APL, and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL. Funding put forward. In March 2013, $75 million was authorized to expand on the formulation of mission activities, mature the proposed science goals, and fund preliminary instrument development, as suggested in 2011 by the Planetary Science Decadal Survey. In May 2014, a House bill substantially increased the Europa Clipper, referred to as Europa Multiple Flyby Mission, funding budget for the 2014 fiscal year from $15 million to $100 million to be applied to pre-formulation work. Following the 2014 election cycle, bipartisan support was pledged to continue funding for the Europa Multiple Flyby Mission project. The executive branch also granted $30 million